And how about this for breaking news out of the ACC on Wednesday? Bill Belichick, 6-time Super Bowl champion head coach, 8 Super Bowl rings to his name, and unquestionably the greatest coach in the history of the sport, who in a 50-year career almost has never coached college football until now. Bill Belichick is going to be coaching the North Carolina Tar Heels in the 2025 season. It's been breaking all over today. Personally, I mean, talked about bummers at the first segment. This is kind of a bummer for an NFL legend to be on the sidelines at UNC, like not even a football school. Like this guy went from Super Bowls to noon kickoffs on the CW. It's weird. It's weird. But it also has huge effects on college football as a whole. And yes, that does include Baylor, because let's look at this from a bird's eye view. First off, it's one of the most shocking moves in the history of football. We've never seen an NFL coach that successful go down to college. Never. Never for any real period of time that I can remember. I mean, the guy's won 6 Super Bowls. So this is wild, first and foremost, just that part of it. He's signing for 3 years and $30 million. So with $10 million AAV. That's pretty big in and of itself. And then there's the reports coming out from yesterday about they called it the organizational Bible. I think in college football, we call this a manifesto of 400 pages for exactly how this is going to work. What structure needs to be in place, certainly what kind of payment plan needs to be in place. And from what we're hearing, that his son, Steven, who is the DC at Washington under Jed Fish, a Belichick guy, is going to be the DC at North Carolina and be the head coach in waiting in Chapel Hill. That is part of the contract, which is something we hear all the time with college football coaches, but very rarely, if ever, do we see it in the contract. That's something that will be interesting to look for going forward for college football coaches. And how does this open the floodgates? Like, do these flameouts in the NFL then go to college, which is something we don't always see. It's sometimes, Lovie Smith at Illinois, sometimes we see it, but I wonder with how many retreads we have in the NFL, and obviously Belichick is not a retread, but you know what I mean? All these retread guys who just hold on to these coordinator positions or analyst positions, or maybe they go into the media like Belichick did this past year. Do those guys become college football head coaches now? It's fascinating to me. And the biggest part about all of this, where it has such an effect on everyone in college football, is what it does to North Carolina's football budget. Now, this is coming from Shihan Jayaraja, a friend of the Baylor sphere, a Baylor alum. It's coming from Matt Hayes. Shihan actually quote tweeted it and said that this is going to be happening with a lot more programs. But this is from Matt Hayes, who says, sources tell me UNC will increase their NIL package for football from $4 million to $20 million in an effort to land Belichick, or in this case, keep Belichick. Wow. They are multiplying their football budget by 5. And this is not a football school, and it never will be. Right? That's no shade. I mean, they're a great basketball school. That to me is the sign of this is where the times are changing. Like this is a sign of intent to everyone out there that can afford to do it. This is what it's going to take. Not just adding some more money, not just making football your number one in terms of the athletic budget, because that's everyone. But the opportunity to, at the drop of a hat, multiply your NIL budget by 5 to get where you need to go. This is going to be a fascinating experiment to me, because Belichick, I mean, we all know, he's not He's not going to be traveling around to kids' high schools in helicopters. Can you imagine after a tough loss, Belichick going into the recruiting room at Keenan Field in Chapel Hill and having to sweet talk these 17-year-olds and their parents? I don't think that's going to happen. But what he's laid out is we're going to run this football program like an NFL program, an NFL franchise would. And that to me is a huge takeaway from this, is how many teams are, or how many programs are going to go that direction. Because like Carolina, obviously they've had some good teams, they've had some success, but they don't win conference championships. They're also rans in an also ran conference. And so this could be the strategy that they need. They literally, I mean, they said, hey, we just had the 70-year-old head coach who was a college football lifer, who had been successful for us before, who had also won a national championship and had a heck of a run at UT, and we bring him back. It didn't really do much for us. You know, we got a top 3 pick out of it at quarterback, but it doesn't do much for us at North Carolina. We need to try something else. And so how many teams and programs are going to go down that route in the future if Bill Belichick gets them to an ACC championship game or gets them in, you know, a playoff spot? Now with a 12-team playoff, is that off the table? I don't know. The guy wins all the time. He's like the best winner ever. So what does then what does become of these also rans in these conferences? You know, just at the drop of a hat, you know, what does that do for Illinois or Rutgers or Vanderbilt or Mississippi State or these teams that at best just can't quite get over the hump? What does that do for them? You know, I would use Kansas, but they've got their head coach. Kansas State, they've got a good head coach in there. Arizona, you know, talking about teams that couldn't get over the hump even at their best. Do they look the NFL route? This is going to be a fascinating experiment. And an experiment is what it is, because he's going to come in here and turn it into an NFL factory. And what kind of sales pitch is that in the NIL era? That, hey, we can't give you that much money. Although with this huge funding that's going into them, I don't know how much that is to pay Belichick and how much that is going to players, but now they're throwing $20 million a year out there. So that might be a little different, but they're never going to have the money of Oregon or Ohio State or Nebraska or Alabama, I guess, is now in that playing field. They're not Texas. They're not going to have that money. But what they're going to be able to sell you on is, we've got the best coach ever to coach this sport, and he's going to get you ready for the NFL. So do you want the money now, or do you want to get to the NFL? We'll give you some money now, but you can take that big payday from Oregon, or you can come here, get some money, make a good living, and play in the NFL. And how many college football programs will go that direction? I think that we all have something to gain from keeping an eye on this Bill Belichick situation. Thank you for making it to the end of the video, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network part of your daily routine. We have got you covered with the most Baylor Bears athletics coverage of any outlet that's not directly tied into Baylor University. So if you want more of that, be sure to like and subscribe. Ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping a video here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, and sick 'em.